Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect bad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. It is Isla, your founder, CEO, and host of our podcast. Today, we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of MyPlate for the holidays with Coach Hannah. So thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So the holidays is definitely a time where people are kind of like freaking out when it comes to like how they're going to overeat. And so we're trying to attack all the sides of how to make people prepare for this. So my plate is important. At least that's what I talk about a lot because we don't really want to get too caught up on the intricacies of the calories. So we're going to break that down today. But tell us first, are there any life updates that you have or like any fun foods that we can kind of talk about to introduce people to that you are loving recently?
So I'm in North Carolina and we are like fall is full force here. It is like chilly. I'm already wearing a sweater, a turtleneck. So I've been eating all things pumpkin the past like couple of weeks. So I made like pumpkin muffins the other day. I made pumpkin overnight oats, and then I found this really good. It's like I think it's just like a pumpkin like oat milk that I've been adding into my coffee. So not one specific item, but all of the pumpkin things together.
Yeah, yes. One of my clients recently said that she didn't realize that pumpkin was really high in so many vitamins and minerals. You know, when you track on MyFitnessPal, it'll say like randomly like, oh, this is really high in zinc or this is really high in potassium or something like that. She was like, I didn't know pumpkin was actually like a healthy food. I was like, yes, it is actually a vegetable.
Yeah, it's so trendy. And so
Yeah.
I think like people forget like, no, like it's an actual like produce item. Like if you like buy like puree or
Yeah.
something rather than like it doesn't just come in syrup form.
Yes. Yeah. I've recently been all about like my beans, healthy beans. Have been loving, let's see, like getting this week I made like a chickpea bean. Last week I made like a kidney bean. I'm so excited for like soup season to be in because I feel like it's so easy to make a big batch of it and then just eat it throughout the week. But I don't know, do kids like beans? Like, do you ever make beans for your kids? Is that like a good mom tip too or not?
No, yeah, yes and no. It depends on what it is. So he like we eat a lot of black beans because black beans are like one of those like beans that like it doesn't really have like a ton of flavor and they're really
Yeah.
versatile. So our like go-to for like quick game night, like baseball night meals is like a black bean quesadilla. So we do that a lot. He likes that. He likes black beans on his like nachos. I think if I put beans in like soup and chili, he eats it. But I'm not if I just like made him a side of beans, he probably would not eat it.
Yeah, yeah, no. We used to eat a lot of beans growing up. Like pinto beans was one of our like weekly night things. I know my little brother used to hate it. And I think I've like come back around to it. But yeah, I think it's super easy to just like make at the beginning of the week. They hold up so well. They're so cheap. They stay in the pantry forever. So you never have to worry about it. And I kind of cook just for myself because my husband like kind of eats all of his meals at work. So finding those like meals that are things can like stay shelf stable for a long time can be hard. But that's one thing that I have found. What about any clients? So you're kind of getting through your first, like, I guess, like full 3 months with like your clients being one of the newest coaches, and have quite a bit of clients now. So any victories that you can share that your clients have been having recently?
So like you said, I'm just starting to like wrap up like several. I think I have like 3 or 4 people that are like finishing up with me. And I just finished up with somebody, I think it was last week. And I think my victory would be with her. I am just like so proud. I'm so proud of her. She like met all of her goals. I think I'm most proud she had this like big, like pivotal like moment, like switch, if that makes sense. So she like or like mind switch. So she came to us already in a healthy weight, just wanted to like lose a couple pounds, but mostly like learn like healthful eating patterns, learn how to work out. And she's actually a client that did not see huge changes on the scale, but saw huge changes like in her body. So over the past like couple of months, she's kind of had like this shift and she's like, do I like really care what the scale says if like my midsection like looks better than it did before I had kids and like everybody's complimenting my biceps and I'm like noticing my like thighs are really muscular. And I was like, maybe this is just like a healthy like weight for you. And it was like just so beautiful for her to have that realization. Like maybe like for me, like the scale isn't the best indicator. And I'm gonna quote her. She said, yeah, no, I'm too busy checking out my body to check out the scale.
Oh my gosh, I love
And
that.
I know. And so that was just it was so nice to wrap up with her and like have her say that in the last section. So I'm like really, really excited for her.
Yes, and that can be a hard concept for people to kind of understand when we're like trained to only think of like weight, or like the number on the scale. But I'd hope that people would want to like you wouldn't want it to be reversed. Like I feel like you wouldn't want to like lose a lot of weight and then people think you look the exact same, if not heavier. And sometimes it just happens like
Yeah.
that where you lose fat and you gain muscle, but that means you get leaner and you get to be a smaller pant size instead. And you are hopefully like increasing your metabolism because that means you've gained muscle. So that's awesome for your client.
Yes, yeah, and we actually, like, had that whole conversation too. I was like, "What if, like, you hit that goal weight, but you had no muscle definition?"
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, I didn't really think about that." And I'm like, "Something to think about, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I guess you're right, because 'cause I'm, like, really strong now."
Oh, that makes me so
So,
happy.
yeah, it was
Awesome,
really nice.
awesome. Okay, so hopping into our article review today. So, I was telling Hannah before we hopped on to record that I was getting my nails done, and on the TV behind, TMZ came on and said that Nene Leakes' son had a heart attack, which is really unfortunate because he's super young. So I pulled the article from CBS News that Nene Leakes from Real Housewives of Atlanta. You're not a Housewives person, are you?
I'm not,
Yeah,
no. When
it's
you sent
fine.
me the article, I had to, like, Google.
Yeah, she's like one of the funny I feel like the funniest people that has come out of Housewives history. I don't even think she's really on it anymore, but she has so many good like one-liners from Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Okay.
Um, but it's crazy that her son, who's 23, Brent, who if anybody watches Real Housewives of Atlanta, you'll know who that is, suffered a stroke and heart failure at 23, which is crazy. I mean, even working in like the hospital, I never really saw this all too often, or it would always be like something like genetic or something. But I thought it would open up a bigger conversation about like heart failure and like stroke in general, because I think there's a big disconnect that not a lot of people talk about like health more. So we kind of talk about like weird supplements or talk about like other like niche things when it comes to exercise, but never about like kind of why we're becoming healthier. For me, it's automatic. Like we want our heart to be healthier. We don't want to have a stroke, but we never, I don't think, clearly talk about it. So that we can kind of open up and talk about that. But what were your initial thoughts about like this person like having a heart failure and stroke or anything like that?
So coming into the article, having like no idea who that is, having never seen that show, when I read it and like the first thing I read was like, oh, so and so age, like I don't know, 24 or whatever it was you said, I was like, I was like taken aback and I kept reading it. And I was very surprised. Yeah, kind of like what you said. When I was in a clinical setting, you see a lot of folks like that are coming in with stroke and that are coming in with heart failure, but they're usually like over the age of 50. I don't recall like ever seeing anybody. Actually, I can pretty confidently say that I never saw anybody like of that age like coming in like with heart failure. So that's crazy. And I hope he's okay.
Yeah, yeah, it is insane. I feel like most of the time I would ever see it or hear about it, like there had to be some sort of like genetic problem, maybe if it had to do with like cholesterol. I know in the article they were kind of they didn't know, like they were trying to maybe say it was drugs, but Nene was like, no, he's not on drugs. It could have been from COVID or something like that, which can put a lot of stress on your heart. But let's just talk about like what are like the causes of stroke and heart failure just in general? I mean, typically this doesn't happen to people that young. So nobody, I don't think needs to worry about right now, but some of the things that we are doing and eating and living our life out now can affect us as we're older. So let's do a little 101 like clinical education. What do you know to be like some of the causes of stroke or heart failure so we can work on preventing them?
So some of the biggest being like elevated like blood pressure, lung disease can impact how hard the heart works just to like make oxygen more available to the body. Obesity has an impact, diabetes have an impact. So all of these things do have an impact on, heart health.
Yeah, yeah. Heart health is one of these things too that can be prevented or thought to be prevented. Some things that kill us in life aren't. But things that we can look at are just making sure we don't have too much stress all the time, making sure we are, I think, going to regular doctor's visits too, so they can kind of catch if your, cholesterol is super high, if you already are in heart failure, so you don't just like randomly have a stroke or have an issue with your heart later on. I think another thing to look at too is trying to make sure, like, all in all, you're overall healthy. So making sure that you are sleeping enough, making sure you're not like overdoing it on caffeine, making sure you are de-stressing, like walking throughout the day, and then making sure you're getting that fiber intake. So overall, you are not eating too much, or like able to like decrease your cholesterol naturally is kind of like what my spiel normally is for taking care of your heart. But what are anything else that you feel like people can do to make sure that they aren't going to have a stroke or a heart failure later on in life?
Going back to what you said, a lot of people come to us and their reason for being healthy is like purely like, oh, I just want to look better. I just want to lose weight. But like really all of these changes we're making right now are like, we want them, we may not think of it like that, but we want it to improve our health, like for the duration of life. And the CDC actually says that about 80% of cardiovascular disease is preventable. So that's going to be prevented like through lifestyle changes, like the exercise, like managing stress levels, like getting adequate sleep. I mean, mindful of nutrition. And so if we can like make those changes and improve our health and decrease our risk for these types of things, like that's a really good reason outside of like just like weight and like physical appearance to make these health changes.
Yeah. It's not always like super fun to talk about on social media or like in a discovery call or something like that, because it's hard to think about like that what we're doing now can impact how long we live. It can add on another 20 to 30 years of our life. If instead of dying at 70, you want to, try to live very healthfully too. I think the quality of life is important, because a lot of people say, well, I don't
Hmm.
want to, suffer for those last 30 years, but you don't have to suffer if you don't have any of these like pre-existing conditions. I saw plenty of people in the hospital that were like 98 plus that didn't have like anything wrong with them, except maybe they had hypertension and that was it. And they were living like a good quality of life with their mental health intact too. And so if, like you said, what'd you say, like 70 or 80% is controllable by
Yeah.
what you eat, it's important to make sure you're losing weight in a healthful way, like we talk about, instead of just ignoring your health and doing everything you can to lose weight, because that doesn't always help you to be healthier. Do you love our realistic approach on nutrition but want to dive a little bit deeper? Let me tell you about the Millennial Living Membership Program. This was designed to help you stay motivated and inspired no matter what health journey you're on. We develop monthly nutrition and fitness challenges with prizes you can win if you stick with it to help motivate you through every month. To inspire you, we upload weekly recipes with downloadable food lists, monthly food demos, and we can even have a registered dietitian answer your questions on nutrition and weight loss. Our members form a community with other like-minded people to help support each other on their health journey. If you are seeking a way to stay motivated throughout your health journey with our method in mind, try signing up for the Millennial Living Membership Program for the first 2 weeks free by signing up on our website at themillennialnutritionist.com. Today's episode is kind of a big advertisement for our Millennial Living Challenge and theme for November. So in order to, I find, to be successful with weight loss around the holidays or just staying on track or even just like feeling better, I always recommend my clients to think a little bit more about MyPlate. And I think most of our coaches do as well. We've talked about this when we've done travel episodes. But that's what we're going to be attacking in Millennial Living this month. So make sure to sign up. You get your first 2 weeks free. This month, some things that we have coming out we're creating a PDF sheet that you can download with 3 different examples of MyPlate. If you want to like study that, if you feel like you really want like a concrete plan of what that can look like, we're going to have a blog post coming about the benefits of turkey, a food demo about Thanksgiving, or a tailgating recipe. It's up to Sarah and she has to decide. And then finally, I'm going to have an exclusive video about why you don't need to be afraid of Thanksgiving. I've actually already filmed it and edited it. And so I just thought about everything that my clients say that they're typically really worried about and trying to make a video about like how you can just calm down, because it's really just one meal, but we're going to also help you today. So let's get to some preliminary questions about MyPlate and what this can look like for the holidays, specifically Thanksgiving. So take it away. Tell us, what is MyPlate if nobody has heard about this?
So I think most of the like age demographic we see grew up with the food pyramid. Um, so MyPlate is kind of the updated version of that. And MyPlate came out and it replaced the food pyramid, and I think in 2011. And instead of the pyramid format that most of us remember, the visual is of a plate instead of a pyramid. And this just allows for better understanding, better visualization of like how the plate should look and how we should be eating. It's more relatable than, seeing all of these foods like on a pyramid. But MyPlate is put out by the USDA, and it is generally it's pretty much a recommendation for how Americans should eat for a healthful life. So the plate is broken up into three categories, and it's grain, protein, and produce. And the goal that my plate has is to, fill half the plate with produce, fill about a quarter of the plate with grain, and about a quarter of the plate with protein. And depending on the visual that you see, because there's a few different versions of it, some larger universities have created their own version. So sometimes you might see like dairy on the plate. Sometimes you'll see a glass of water on the plate. Sometimes they'll have incorporated healthy fats. But the foundation of the plate is the produce, the protein, and the grain.
Yes, awesome. And so I find that it's helpful to know how all those categories like align in there. We kind of start with the tracking first so people can contextualize
Mhm.
what that means in terms of calories. Some of my very first clients, I did just start them with MyPlate. I was like, I'm going to get people to lose weight with MyPlate only without ever having to track. But I didn't realize that my clients weren't losing weight because they were eating all the components, but they were doing like 2 and 3 portion sizes. And I didn't realize. So I was like, okay, first we got to teach people about calories. So I know what, a fourth of the plate of carbs doesn't mean like 4 pieces of bread on your plate. It means like, this an amount of calories. And so I encourage people to kind of think about that first if you're really confused, if you're trying to lose weight, and then look at MyPlate. But what happens when we don't know how to use MyPlate and we only track? So this is a question I get from some clients at the end of our program. We try to transition them out and they're like, well, why can't I just track forever? I like to do it.
I think a lot of it comes to like sustainability and like the duration of of how long you're going to be able to calorie count, right? If we're only counting calories, we're going to get burnt out on it. No one, and I mean nobody wants to be tied to their phone every single day. None of us are going to be tracking calories like when we're 85 years old. Like I promise you, we're not going to do it.
So then how do we successfully use MyPlate? I'm going to say for like weight loss, because you can still use it for weight gain. You can use it for maintenance, but how do we use MyPlate successfully for weight loss?
The best way to answer this question is kind of to reference like what we do in our program with our clients. So by the time we get to the My Plate goal, our clients have learned, all the things that we talked about a second ago. So they've learned like how much protein they need. They have learned how much produce they need. They've learned like how many calories are ideal for like their body. They've also been like weighing and measuring at this point. So at that point, they're able to have like good visuals for what they're eating and what everything looks like. So at this point, we've also been working on hunger and fullness cues. So by the time we shift to My Plate, as long as they're following a similar meal pattern to what they had been doing when calorie counting, and as long as they're like listening and trusting those hunger and fullness cues, the calories and macros really should fall into place at that point in the program.
Yeah, and sometimes I have clients that like I'm always surprised by this, like that do better with just using MyPlate. Sometimes I do find that people like it's still good I think to have the foundation of knowing like okay, yeah, chicken is around like 20-30 grams of protein and sometimes you just need to track it to see that. But sometimes my client or people in general I think can get like really caught up on all the numbers and so if you're somebody like that, whenever I transition clients to tracking, sometimes they lose more weight because they're less focused on the numbers and more just focused on like okay, like, are these food components on my plate? I don't have to keep thinking about it. I don't have to be a perfectionist about it. And I can just move on. I can think of my own body's cues. Like, for example, one time I had a client who we gave her calories and we give them a lot. Most of my clients are like, there's no way I can lose weight eating that much. And so this client, like, she would eat her basic calories throughout the day. And then she'd have like 200 or 300 left over. And she'd be like, I just filled it up with ice cream, which theoretically is fine. But if you're not hungry, we shouldn't really be eating so that we're able to train ourselves to not do that when we're not tracking anymore either. So when she switched to My Plate, she wasn't constantly seeing that she had this like extra amount. So she did just have to listen to her body. And then she ended up eating less because she was like, I don't see how much I have less. I just listen. Am I hungry? Am I full? If I follow the My Plate model, I'm going to be full, eating less calories. And so I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh, I need to, fill up my calories with this ice cream. So that's just another real life example about like how it can really help you to lose weight. But when we think about healthfulness, how is using My Plate even helpful for like living that healthy lifestyle too?
I think again, it comes to sustainability. So whenever I like make goals for my clients or whenever I like even not clients, like talk to random people, I'm always like, whatever you're doing, is it something you can do like in 50 years? Right. So like if we're not able to do it for the duration of life, then it's not going to help with overall health. It's not going to help with weight loss, or maybe it will, to a certain point, and then it may not. So I think the great thing about MyPlate is it truly is like sustainable. And I mean, it's a government program, so like we're not being like compensated for
Yeah.
for promoting MyPlate, but I really do enjoy MyPlate, and I use it a lot like at home for myself too. And it really is because it's like something like simple, and it is like you can use it for the duration of life. So that's going to help, you know, maintain your health and maintain whatever like goals that you've accomplished while working with us.
What about like snacking and like how do we, I guess, like successfully snack using the MyPlate model or even just like without tracking?
My clients get confused with this too because like, you're not going to make a snack look like an entire meal. Like it's not going to have all of those
Right.
components. So I usually refer people to like the snack document that we have in our program. And for those that aren't familiar with it, it's essentially saying like pair a produce with a protein, or like what we're essentially like a carbohydrate with a protein, or like I don't know, a cracker with a fat or something like that. So those are taking components of my plate but kind of making it smaller, if that makes sense. So in a way, you're kind of taking like two pieces of my plate and using it for a snack rather than like the whole plate. And again, at that point, like how much produce like you need per day. So like if your first snack of the day was like, I don't know, crackers and cheese, maybe that next snack, like you need to have like a produce because you're short on your produce goals, maybe. So it's kind of looking at it as like a big picture and like keeping in mind how you need to pair the snack and the meals, but also being mindful of like your overall produce, calorie, and protein goals.
Yeah, I tell clients it normally just kind of comes back to like how are you viewing your snack? I like to try to view snacks as like a way to if you're like missing out on something, it shouldn't be like snacking shouldn't just be like a little treat or like you're bored and you want to eat something and or like you're with a friend and like they're having something so you're having something like it should kind of be like okay am I hungry right now is it a meal time so no so maybe I should snack but I know that protein and fat keeps me full so let's add a protein and like I'm short on a produce that's how we formulate a snack and so that helps you to still use the principles of health and weight loss without like having that calorie guideline because if you didn't think about it that way then yeah like you could easily just go over on your calories if every time you snack it's like on marshmallows or something.
Yeah, I
um
love how you said that because snacks really are like a great way to like bridge gaps.
mhm.
Whether it is produce or whether it is calories or whether it is protein, you to being able to make that connection like, hey, my breakfast was really low on protein. Like I probably need a high protein snack.
Yes, yeah, that's something I do all the time if I'm like it's like 10 o'clock and I'm like, it's not quite time for lunch. I mean, I could eat lunch, but it's gonna be weird the rest of the
Yeah.
day. It's like, I'll be like, I probably just should have a protein shake right now. And that's when a lot of clients kind of utilize that too. Let's transition to the holidays. So, like, how can it be helpful to know how to use this for the holidays?
I love using my plate for the holidays and for parties and for all of these things. It makes life so much easier, truly. My plate does allow you to have like a little bit more flexibility and freedom, whether you are at a holiday work party, your family dinner, like whatever it might be. So you're able to visualize my plate and then fill your plate based on that. And often at events and holiday dinners, you're probably going to have like so many foods to choose from. And so without being able to have like that visual in mind, it might be really hard to calculate calories for stuff like that. Like it's going to be hard to calculate, like half a scoop of green bean casserole, like or a dessert that you didn't even prepare. It's going to be really hard to calculate that because you have no idea. So at that point is when you can like reference back to like my plate and be like, okay, this is how I can fit that in.
Yes, yeah. I find that it gives clients structure. They like the visual component, without having to be so rigid. Because a lot of people think when they're not track anymore that it means they are just doing nothing. But it's not that you're not doing nothing. You're just like having a little bit of a looser way of like making sure all those components are there. They're going to help with weight loss. I took some tips from the USDA website since that's where my plate came from of like what my plate actually is. So I thought we could debrief because sometimes I feel like this language is like super robotic. So,
Sure.
first, it says the way to successfully follow my plate is to focus on whole fruits. Fruits is super demonized, so we can talk about that. But like, why should that be a component? Like, why can adding fruit be helpful for weight loss, do you think?
So we talk a lot about fiber in our program because fiber is something that adds like bulk to our meals, and it helps fill our stomach. And so one of the ways to get fiber is through fruit and like vegetables. So I think fruit sometimes gets a bad rap, and it's because of the like low carb diets that come
Mhm.
about. Fruits are a carbohydrate, but it's fine. That's okay. Like, it's fine. Like, our body needs carbohydrates, and the fruits are providing us with the carbs that we need, the fiber that we need, as well as a lot of other like micronutrients that our body needs, like just for overall like health, whether it's like our skin or our hair or like organ functions. Like, we definitely need we need the fruit in our body.
Yes, and I mean, fruit like is a it's going to be higher in calories than typical vegetables because it has a little bit more natural sugar in there, but I mean, it's still not as high as like a butterboard or like a brownie. So I don't think we need to be that afraid. I think when people don't know what calories are, then they like think that it's like the highest calorie food possible, but it's really not. One of my clients was like so surprised when she started tracking and she ate like a cup of blueberries and there's something crazy like 7 or 8 grams of fiber when most women need like 25. That's like a pretty good head start to your day. So just another reason we want to add fruits on there. The next tip they talk about is to vary your vegetables. Take us through why are vegetables important to add on your plate for MyPlate when it comes to weight loss?
So I think, the same like thing as the fruit as far as like the fiber goes, the bulking that it like brings to your plates and, fills up your belly for less calories than like some other items out there. And then I think it mentions an array of vegetables or variety. I can't remember what word you used. And that's just because there are different micronutrients in like fruits and vegetables. So like, your dark leafy greens might have one thing, and then, your orange vegetables, your carrots, your bell peppers might have something else. And we do need all of those things. So we do want to have like incorporate vegetables and make sure we're not eating like the same veggies like every single day. So we're consuming like a wide variety of nutrients.
Yes, and especially for our hypothyroidism clients, the way that like your thyroid is absorbing different vitamins and minerals isn't as effective as other people, and so it's very important to get all those vitamins and minerals from a varied diet from lots of fruits and vegetables. Tell me the next tip is they put on there is to vary your protein intake. They say like try a taco night, add a new protein like shrimp, beans, chicken, or beef. Why do we need that protein component on there? Why does that help with weight loss?
So protein's going to help keep us full for starters, and protein's also going to help us maintain lean muscle mass. And a lot of our clients are coming to us like trying to lose weight. So we really want to save and preserve that lean muscle mass and like build it honestly. So that way, when we are like losing weight, we're losing fat and we're not losing the muscle. And the way to do that is by having an adequate amount of protein. And then as far as variety goes, because I know it said like to vary protein too. So my two thoughts with this are, just like with fruit and vegetables, there are different minerals and different proteins, all of which are important to us. And then different proteins have different amounts of protein, right? So if somebody's eating like beans at lunch and that's their protein option, if they're not like vegetarian or vegan, maybe they want to like choose a meat at night because you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck with an animal protein than you would like the bean. Not that the bean's not okay. It is, but it is lower in protein for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be a little bit more strategic there.
Mhm.
The next one is whole grain. So they instruct us to make half of our grains whole grain. They say add brown rice to stir fry dishes, combine your favorite veggies and protein foods for a nutritious meal. Why do we need whole grains? This is something that my clients are mostly confused about because we don't talk about it too much in the program. So tell us why we need whole grains in our diet for weight loss and just for overall health, I guess.
Grains are really going to help keep us full, which, all of the things that we've mentioned are important in keeping us full. But like, you can have like a huge salad with adequate produce and a chicken breast on it, adequate protein. But the grain that you may be adding to it is what's really going to like give your tummy like that satisfaction and like that feeling of fullness. So I just think it's really important to add to your meals so you like feel satisfied from the meal and then don't feel like you need to eat even more like, hour later. It's going to really help hold you over longer.
Definitely. And that distinction between the whole grains and the not whole grains is important because typically the whole grains do have a little bit more fiber. So although it's not lower in calories, it helps you to feel a little bit more full for longer. So that hopefully you won't eat. Because if you were to just eat not whole grains all the time, like refined grains, you could eat like the same amount of rice for the same amount of calories, but then like an hour later, you might be hungry again. So
Mhm.
it's almost like it kind of wasn't really worth it to consume those calories like that. The last one they add is like kind of a little controversial to
Yeah.
dairy. So the last tip they have is to move to a low fat or fat free dairy milk or yogurt. Enjoy a yogurt parfait. Yeah. What about the benefits of dairy? Do we need that on there? What do you normally explain? How do you normally explain this?
This one's hard.
Yeah.
And it is super controversial. I think like my dairy recommendations honestly change depending on my client, right? Like if I have a client who needs to watch their cholesterol levels and if they ask me like what they should consume for dairy, I'm probably going to ask them to like keep an eye on for like skim or like low fat dairy. But with that said, I had a client a couple weeks ago. We were looking to increase calories and I was like, why don't you switch to whole milk?
Mhm.
So it's interchangeable. It's very, very individualized. I mean, me personally, I think I change what kind of yogurt I buy, like just depending on my mood, honestly. Sometimes it's like 2% full fat, fat free. So I think it depends on the client, honestly.
Dairy is one of these weird things too, where it does have like a little bit of protein. So if you
Mhm.
like are doing a meat-free meal, sometimes I tell clients, like especially for breakfast, doing like eggs aren't going to always get us to the protein goal we need per meal. So also adding like a dairy on the side can be good. Doing like a latte with milk can also be good as well. So that's kind of how that can fit in there. Let's talk about how we can like make all this work for Thanksgiving. So, give me your example plate of like how you would add each of these components to Thanksgiving so people know where to put all these categories.
Okay, so like a Thanksgiving meal using my plate.
Yeah.
All right. We celebrate Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. We have some really good family recipes that come about. So let me see. So my sister always makes this really good mac and cheese. So that's probably what would be on my plate for my grain. It's
Okay.
absolutely delicious. There's a ton of cheese in it. So there's probably a good amount of protein as well as fat, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I like being the dietitian, I always take charge of the veggies. So I'm always bringing like some sort of like winter salad or like
Mhm.
like winter squash salad or something like that. So I usually like load up on that. So I'd probably do half my plate with just the salad that I brought. I love a good salad. And then my dad always makes turkey ham with like a homemade pineapple sauce. And so I think the turkey ham would be my protein. So mac and cheese for grain, turkey ham for protein, and some sort of winter salad for my veggie. I'm not a green bean casserole fan and I don't like gravy. So that's it.
Easy, easy. Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's a good example of like how you can kind of work in the thing that you love. I think typically the carb is the hardest part there, but you can always do
Yeah.
like a little bit of a combination of like a little bit of everything, whether you do like the stuffing too, or you also like some sort of roll or a biscuit. You can kind of add that all in there together. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
let's do a rapid fire my plate. So,
Oh gosh. Okay.
this is something that clients struggle with too. So whenever people are going out to eat, it can be harder because we're frazzled. We don't know the calories of things, but it's good to practice my plate when you go out to eat so that you can ensure that it's going to be lower in calories than like a whole plate of Alfredo pasta or something.
For
So,
sure.
I listed some categories that I find that people tend to struggle with. So tell me what your my plate example would be for Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex is hard, and I know you live in Texas and I'm from
Yeah.
Texas, and it is like all carb.
Yep. Yep.
So what I usually go to because I like my chips and salsa. So normally my chips and salsa, like my chips are gonna be my carbs. So I kind of counter that by doing like I'll get like a chicken fajita.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm also from Texas. I'm a tortilla snob. If it's not homemade, I want nothing to do with it. So I usually just eat the chips and then my chicken quesadillas. And usually they have like a bunch of like bell peppers and onions with it. And so that's my veggie.
Yeah, that's what I normally recommend too. That or a taco salad. I also love a good like tortilla soup. You can take the chips off if you like the chips instead, and there's some like vegetable broth in there too, so that's good. What about a fast food chain? You can like pick your one that it comes to mind first. Give us a my plate for fast food.
So I actually found myself in the Chick Fil A line 2 weeks ago as I was heading out of town, and I did like pull up the menu. I was like, "How am I going to like? What am I going to do with this?" So I love Chick Fil A fries, so I got a
Okay.
small fry
Yeah.
that I considered. I do tell clients like potatoes are a produce, but I'm going to put my fry in the grain. I got the 12 count grilled nugget, which is like 35, 36 grams of protein, which is quite a bit of protein. And then Chick fil A now has like this side like kale salad.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
So that was my meal 12 count grilled nugget, side kale salad, and a small fry.
Love it.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It
um,
wasn't bad. I was like, this is actually really filling.
yeah, I feel like Chick Fil A does a pretty good job. My go-to is
Mhm.
typically like their fried chicken salad. So I do like the fried batter part is like, I guess like my carb or my grain, and then like the salad part. And then I normally do get like a higher calorie dressing. But I'm getting a lot of produce with the base. What about pizza night? This is something that a lot of people think they cannot lose weight if they like pizza.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm super plain with pizza. I just on my pizza nights, it's probably a lower protein night to be honest. I usually do but like half for some reason pizza and salad go together in my head. So I do usually have like a huge salad and then I'll have like a couple, usually about two pieces of pizza. If I make it at home, I started buying the Banza frozen pizza. I don't know if you've had that, but it's like I don't know, like 18 per serving, like 18 grams of protein, which is still a little bit less than what I like to get for my meals. But again, pizza night for me is usually lower protein. So I feel like that's a good like balance. And then I usually eat a salad with it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most normal go-to. A lot of pizza places have a salad you can eat on the side. I've had some clients who do like a veggie tray if they're like going to somebody's house for pizza night. But yeah, typically I think pizza night's going to be a little bit lower in protein, but you do get a little bit of protein when you do grains and a little bit with cheese. So it's not like zero.
Mhm.
And just try to, I think, supplement the next day. What about
Yeah,
Thai
that's one of the
food?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. What about Thai food? So I had a client once and I will never forget this. She was like, well, I went to a Thai restaurant. There's no low calorie options there. So I just gave up. I was like, "Oh." So what would you say to trying to put together a Thai food, my plate meal?
One of the things I love about like most like types of Asian cuisines is there's always a lot of vegetables like in that cuisine. So I usually will look at the vegetable section, like the vegetarian section of the menu, and then I'll add a protein to it. That way, my grain might be a little bit low, maybe depending on what it is. Like I might counter it with like some sort of appetizer or something like that. But that's like one of those things where maybe I mean, most of us aren't falling short on carbs, to be honest. So
Mhm.
maybe I just don't have a grain for that meal. But yeah, my go-to at like any sort of Asian restaurant is to like look at the vegetarian portion of the menu and then add a protein to it. That way I'm getting like a ton of produce and I'm getting my protein.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that like stir fries are great for a
Mhm.
lot of like Asian cuisines. I think every like actual country has like their own spin on it. And most of the time you can get like the rice on the side, so I don't even have to worry about it getting all mixed up in there. Cause the thing with like veggie fried rice is like it's gonna be a lot of rice in there or like noodles and stuff. So anyway, anytime you can get it separate is good. And then the last one I feel like people really trip up on because there's not a lot of structure is like appetizers or like tapas style meal. So what do you do for that, or what would you recommend for that to make it my plate style?
We just actually did tapas the other night. We went to Barcelona. I don't know if you ever went there
Oh,
when
I
you
love
lived in
that
Raleigh.
place.
Okay. So good. And so it's small plate, like, appetizer portions. You're having to get a lot of plates because it's very small. And so we were kind of like, all right, let's pick two. I think we decided on like two veggie plates and three protein plates. And from there, we like picked our three proteins. I think we did like swordfish, mussels, and like prawns. And then we picked like our veggies. And I think we did like beets and carrots. And then they like bring out like a freshly baked like sourdough bread, which I absolutely love. So then that was my grain.
Yes, yeah. Barcelona Wine Bar is a chain. They have one in Dallas. I don't know if it's like all over the
I think
US.
I think there's one in DC. I don't think it's like chain, but I think there's
Yeah.
like a couple. But like even for like it being like a mini chain, it's like good, like super good.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was saying just say, like, if anybody else wants to try it, there are some other ones out there, but yeah, that was like my favorite place in Raleigh to go was Barcelona Wine Bar because they had like so many vegetable options. I love the beets.
They do.
There unfortunately is a tapas place here that has no vegetables on the whole menu. Like I want to write the chef because they only have a tomato jam. It's like a Barcelona place, but I went to Barcelona and they have a lot of vegetables there, so they really need to
They
get
have
with it.
a ton of vegetables.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they had like potatoes, cauliflower, they had broccolini, they had
Mhm.
carrots, they had the beets that we got.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of options there.
Yeah, but I think that's good. I think trying to order something, I think a lot of times people freak out because they go with friends to these places. So try to
Mhm.
interject and do like one thing. I know I recently went to a bachelorette party where we just shared everything. And every time I was like, can we please get a salad? And nobody really said, or they were like, oh my gosh, okay. But everybody always ate it. And I actually didn't even get enough each time. So I think trying to like look for that vegetable option on there, a lot of like new places, Brussels sprouts is like having a moment. So look for the Brussels sprouts on the menu too. And that'll be like a good vegetable to get in. Well, great. So we really wrapped up what My Plate can look like overall. We haven't done a My Plate episode, so that was a good overview. And then how you can actually use this for the holidays, we kind of brushed over, but hopefully you can kind of learn how to plug that in. We have a ton of holiday content coming out, so just kind
Mhm.
of listen for it all. But thank you so much for joining us today, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love talking holiday food.
Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.